This is Terrence Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you about the retail establishment again, and an article I came across that all 240 family Christian stores are closing. Now, this article is based back in February, and it's actually striking because I didn't know that they had that many Christian bookstores available from that functioning in the retail space. And as I was reading the article, it made me wonder that will the church be next? And just let me give you some of the excerpts that I read, and it's worth me reading this. I'm just going to read it to you so you can make your own conclusions. More than 2 years ago, suppliers forgave family Christian stores $127 million in debt so they could remain opening. But today, the chain, which bills itself as the world's largest retailer of Christian-themed merchandise, announces closing of all its stores after 85 years in business. Family Christian, which employed more than 3,000 people in more than 240 stores across 36 states, blamed changing consumer behavior and declining sales. If the change in consumer behavior is functioning for the family Christian stores, which promote Christianity and function from the Bible standpoint, will the church also be affected by this? I'm believing so. I've already heard some aspects of it being done. But let me read some more. We had 2 very difficult years post-bankruptcy, stated Christian President Chuck Benchochia. I can't pronounce this correctly. I apologize for that. Despite improvements in product assortment and the store experience, sales continue to decline. The store experience? What are you selling here? I didn't expect that there would be a store experience for selling Christianity. Now, let me first start off here. I'm a believer, and I was always taught that you're supposed to define yourself from being different from the world, not operating in the same fashion. But apparently that's just my belief in that process. And I'm not picking on it. I'm just saying, I'm pointing out some things that just were striking to me. Okay. In addition, we were not able to get the pricing and terms we needed from our vendors to successfully compete in the market. Compete in the market? Let Christianity be supposed to compete like we're in like another operating business. Interesting. And the article goes on to say, we have prayerfully looked at all possible options, trusting God's plan for our organization, he stated, and a difficult decision to liquidate is our only recourse. What does trusting God have to do with you actually operating and not aware of the economic times that we're facing, that you would create 240 family Christian stores to begin with? But I digress. Let me read some more into this thing that I found interesting. At the same time that we share our sense of loss, we experience our appreciation, Chuck Benchochia and his staff, who have worked so hard over the past 12 years to make the chain of stores succeed, says Taylor. We will pray for the many family employees who lose their jobs. Fascinating. Look at this also. Family Christian's financial problems weren't new. In 2012, the chain bought itself back from private equity owners, and in 2013 promised to donate all profits. They promised to donate all profits. But here's the kicker: to serving widow and orphans around the world. But only $300,000 was contributed to charities over the following 2 years, exhibiting how slim the margins were on the $450 million in gross sales the chain generated over the same period. I don't know. I always find it's something. It's always been a touchy situation when you're dealing with. The only time Jesus actually went out there, you see him getting angry, was when they were trying to sell. The people who were functioning in the church, man, were actually selling something in the open market. But again, this is just my interpretation of it. But I'm curious if this kind of mindset is actually going to be projecting churches going forward, because they've been building out for years and not realizing the time that's changing as well. In 2015, Family Christian filed for bankruptcy. Despite $230 million in gross revenues, in 2014, the retailer owed more than $90 million. Sales of $305 million in 2008 had steadily shrunk to a projected $216 million in 2015. Again, functioning by the world, and I've always been of the other perception that we're supposed to distinguish ourselves to be different. Filing bankruptcy, operating in this particular world, especially as that brand of representing Christianity, doesn't show it in a good light, to say the least. But 27 Christian publishers, including InterVarsity Press Baker, Charisma Media, David C. Cook, and Abbott Press, objected to the retailer's restructuring plan, under which the chain would get to owe $20 million worth of items bought on consignment, free and clear. Not only and without paying the suppliers. So now you're not only you're doing things in the world, but you're not even functioning in good standing to show yourself to be anything different than any other business operating out there, and on bad standing without even paying the suppliers. The Christian vendors also criticized the way the terms benefited Richard Jackson, who owned Family Christian, the first lien holder, FC special funding, in line to be paid with any proceeds in the purchasing organization. The creditors claim Jackson sought to complete his scheme to own the debtors for a mere $4 million in cash and reduce debt of the companies by over $90 million by acquiring the debtors in 20 days. The creditors filed a lawsuit. How bad can you be that you got to operate in this kind of fashion? Family Christian pulled its proposal. The chain headed to auction, where 3 of the 4 bidders were liquidators that dismayed the Christian suppliers even more. No one except the banks and attorneys will get any money from a liquidation. This is even sadder. So Family Christian asked his creditors to vote, either choose one of his liquidators and get nothing, since the creditors were behind FC special funding in the line to get paid, or choose FCS acquisition, keep the doors open and the lights on. Creditors will lose their $20 million in consignment items, but will at least have a place to continue selling new goods. Faced with these options, Family Christian's creditors voted 162-7 to sell to FCC acquisition. Family Christian shed about $127 million in debt, $108 million of it to the creditors who voted for them to stay open. For the short term, they will be healthy, and if they can adapt to retail challenges ahead, they may be successful. Obviously, we see that's not the issue as they file for bankruptcy. The nation's largest distributor of Christian products also called Family Christian's bankruptcy a contributing factor in speeding up its demise. Why are you filing bankruptcy in the first place? Why is Christianity being sold in a marketplace like anything other commodity? These are the questions that just ring true to me. And then will the model that we've been having, that you're operating in the world, and no one wants to say this, but churches function as an institution in itself and a financial institution because they take in a lot of income in. This was even functioning in terms of the regular world, and they were coming on the sheds. It just made me think about the churches in general, because I thought a larger part of the populations that function in most churches are of the baby boomer class, and they're reaching their headwinds as the ERISA Act comes in with reaching 71. When they reach the age of 71, they have to start actually taking money out of the stock market to pay back what was done, because the government wants its pound of flesh. And the reason why I'm focusing on that and explaining that ERISA Act is because that's the largest population that's still continuing to go to churches. Younger people are finding different means and methods of going about, and even though some of them are still taking some of the traditional route, is nowhere near the number that population has done. So with that being said, and the younger people that are going to churches, they don't make enough to fund them to keep them going on and keep the lights on, because it's just strictly supposed to be based on your contributions and giving. But as we've seen with the Family Christian stores, if they're feeling like this because people have changed their consumer habits, which is fascinating to even consider that Christianity operates in consumption and consumer habits, we need to be mindful of this going forward. Will you see a lot of churches start closing? And I'm just reading this article and pointing it out because it's something to think about. What does this mean for the industry? There is one less major distributor to feed the Christian store market. Christian store market? What are we talking about here? If the demise had been 6 months ago, I would have made the correlation to the bankruptcy, but today it's a merely reflection to the shift in retail buying patterns. Again, this has just been striking to me, and that's the only reason why I'm pointing it out, that if the largest Christian store can have that many closing and lay off 3,000 people, what are you going to do for churches who strictly operate on contributions given by the public? And as they become squeezed and have less to give, should we change the model of more churches being built? And I still see churches being built everywhere I drive, especially in Virginia. I used to see them in New York as well. So I'll probably be talking more about this dilemma. And usually I don't like to dabble into these aspects of religion because It's a controversial item in itself, and it can lead to a lot of emotion and people feeling a certain way. But this had to be talked about. We need to think about things in a different manner, especially as a Christian and as a believer, that this is something that we shouldn't see going forward. This is Terrence Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions. Until my next video, I'm out.